You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Hristodoulou.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Hristodoulou, and today, on this August 10th, 2022, I am doing my Next Man Up series on the NFC East. So we're talking the Eagles, the Commanders, the Giants, the Cowboys, and picking out a single player from each of those four teams and who I believe is next up to really break out for their respective teams. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and most importantly, comment down below if I'm talking one of your favorite teams. Who do you expect to really show up for this team in the upcoming 2022 season? Do you agree with who I'm talking about, or do you maybe have somebody else in mind who you think is really poised for success? But we'll dive right into it. Now, starting with the Giants, first team we'll talk about here, I'm going to begin with them. And I will say that while I was doing the NFC East, I had some preconceived ideas on players I thought I was going to talk about until I started really doing some research into the rosters and ultimately came out with a couple of guys on some teams that I didn't really even have like on my radar per se. And the Giants, prime example of that, I'm going to have to bring up safety Xavier McKinney, who started out his career with about 200 or so snaps his rookie season, showed some promise in the limited play he had, but really turned it up a notch just this past season. He played 1,100 snaps. He had 69 tackles, 5 interceptions, 4 pass breakups, and only a 74.5% completion percentage coming his way off of 47 targets. He had a really good showing last year in his first full year as a starter, and I think he's really poised and honestly set up with some additions to the defense and also the regime change going on over there. I think that we're setting up Xavier McKinney right now to have a even better season than he did last year. And when you look at just the roster and how things are kind of constructed right now, there should be an improved pass rush. Obviously, with the drafting of Kayvon Thibodeaux, I think the Giants expect to see that improve greatly, bringing him on the edge there. But also additions like Rodarius Williams to help out the secondary. With improvements in the pass rush and in the secondary, I think his job should only get a little bit easier. And again, after his first full season, he's going to have the opportunity now to go through training camp. He's been the starter. Things are already, really slowed down for him. They always say it takes about a year or two for players to really have the game slow down for them. And having his rookie year be limited to only about like 200 some odd snaps last season was like that real first year as the guy on the back end of the defense to really get his experience in and really experience the NFL for what it is. And he really showed up and did an excellent job. And I think with the way things are kind of moving right now in New York, he's poised for success. I'm really excited to see what he can do over there. And I think he's trending upward. I expect him to double down and improve upon last season and, maybe even start to push as an argument for one of the top safeties in the league, maybe somewhere within that top 10 conversation or so, or at least within the top 15 at the very least, if he's not already within that conversation now. Second team we'll talk about here, we'll jump into the Washington Commanders. And again, another team that I thought I knew who I was going to talk about because I'm really excited about him, and I'll mention who it was. I was ready to go all in on the wide receiver Jahan Dotson conversation, but when I was looking at some of the other players on the roster, and this is a second-year man that came up to when I was really looking at stuff, right tackle Samkmphi. Unfortunately, last year, dealt with some injuries, missed a handful of games here, missed a handful of games there, did not get to play in a full season. But in the time that he did play, this guy, as a Colts fan, I wanted the Colts to draft Samkmphi. This was someone that I really wanted them to go after. As we needed a tackle going into last year's draft, this was someone I really wanted to see them target. So Washington, I knew then you got yourselves a good one. And after seeing the games he got to play in last year, I'm doubling down on that same feeling. He was an absolute menace in the run game. He looked awesome when it came to plowing over defenders and opening up those massive roadways for his running backs to go through. But even in the passing game, with only 4 sacks allowed, 16 total pressures altogether, and only 2 penalties, which were in a Week 2 matchup versus the New York Giants, this is someone who I think is really going to turn into a pro's pro on the right side and be able to anchor that offensive line. I am jealous and envious of how well he looks because, again, someone that I really wanted my personal team to go after and get. And, when I saw the Commanders get him, heartbroken. But the way he's turning out, not really surprised. This is someone who I think is really going to take a leap and move into that upper echelon of top-end tackles going into this next season, so long as he stays healthy. Hopefully that injury bug lets go of its bite, and he's able to play through a full 17 slate of games here. Barring any injuries, I firmly believe that Samkmphi is trending in the right direction, and I think he's on his way up. I think he's going to be a legit anchor and a guy who's going to be on the right side of that offensive line as long as they don't mess up any contract negotiations for the next 10-plus years. Samkmphi feels like a dude. He just has to stay healthy. That's all he needs, and I think he's good. Looking at the Eagles now, and this is someone who really started to break out last year. He has played all over the secondary at, slot, outside, inside, you name it. He's done it all over the place for them. Cornerback, Avant Maddox. A lot of conversation went around him last year. Some people with criticism, other people with praise. I love his swagger. I love his play style. And I think this year he's really going to come into his own and shine. He's played, like I mentioned, throughout the entirety of his career. He's played in just about everywhere. But last year, he got to really firmly sit in the slot, and he shined. Is that the word? He absolutely shined in that position. He did allow a career-high 74% completion percentage. I will say that. However, with that, he allowed a career low of 7.3 yards per reception. So while, yes, he may have allowed a little bit more in terms of receptions there, he's playing inside the slot and he's limiting how far those plays were going. And that number dropped drastically. I want to say it was like roughly 4 yards or so per reception from the year prior. Obviously, playing in the slot, that's typically going to happen. But the fact that he's keeping that number low, and he's also, 5 pass breakups. He had a couple of forced fumbles. He did an excellent job in terms of tackling with 57 tackles on the year and an interception to boot. I mean, this is a guy that feels like he's kind of found his home within the Philadelphia Eagles defense, and he's going to be able to stay there. You look at the addition of James Bradberry and obviously Darius Slay, who has emerged as one of the top corners in the league again. He was great when he was in Detroit. Took him a little bit, I feel like, to really find his footing and get in a groove, but has started to really prove that he is one of those top-end dudes in the NFL. And I am a massive, massive fan of Darius Slay. I always have been since his days back in Detroit. With them on the outside, handling the outside corner duties, you get to have him on the inside doing his thing where he was really shining and standing out on the defense last year. Sky's the limit for Avant Maddox. I think he's going to be a true slot corner for this team as long as they keep him there and continue with the success that he had last year. I have no doubt in my mind that he can continue to progress and trend upward. And then for me, my final guy, and I feel like I talked secondaries this entire video so far, and honestly, I'm going to keep doing it here because someone in the secondary who dealt with some injuries last year for the Cowboys, but looked good when he was on the field and was really progressing going from the 2019 season, or I guess 2020 season into the 2021 season, safety Donovan Wilson. You obviously have Malik Hooker back there. He's dealt with his injuries, but he looked pretty good for the Cowboys. And then obviously all the discussion about Trayvon Diggs. The secondary is looking good. With Donovan Wilson, who, again, missed a handful of games last year due to injuries, had 4 sacks, a couple of interceptions. He had 48 tackles, 21 stops in 2020 when he was fully healthy and played the whole season. That kind of talent doesn't just go away. If he stays healthy and the defense continues to improve with the pieces that they've added, you obviously look at the emergence of Trayvon Diggs last year, the emergence of Micah Parsons last year. DeMarcus Lawrence missed a bunch of time last year as well, so that pass rush was affected. Then you also look at a guy like Sam Williams that the Cowboys added in the draft. Donovan Wilson has the opportunity to get back to the ways of 2020 and continue to progress and trend upward. I really think he can do it. Again, I like his style of play. He looked really good in 2022 and was on the rise and was a guy that probably, if you were within like the Cowboys you probably looked to him and you were like, man, Malik Hooker, we'll see how he does, but we know Donovan Wilson was looking really good. Hopefully that pairing goes well. Well, Malik Hooker does a solid job, and unfortunately Donovan Wilson is in and out because of games. If he stays healthy, you have a really good safety tandem there and a lot of young emerging pieces on defense, and Wilson is definitely a guy you cannot overlook, and I think he is poised to have a really big season in this next one coming up here. But again, fire down in the comments section below. Let me know, Who amongst these 4 teams do you think is poised for a breakout season? Someone who's really going to step up and emerge as a player for their unit. I would love to hear what you guys think. Again, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, help support the channel. I appreciate it as always. I will see you guys in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Have a good one.